Nicholas Athenas, welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Sorry about the issue we had yesterday. I didn't realize I had 3 shows in 3 days. I had just done 2 shows, but then I had so much hell break loose at my job at Whole Foods, and everything kind of threw me off, and didn't realize I was supposed to do one with you yesterday. But I'm glad I have you on now. Do the show now. It's great to be speaking to you. And I met you at Karmafest in Delaware. Fascinating conference in more ways than one. And you have a lot of things to offer. You have a website, the universalkey.com. It's a very, very enlightening and interesting title for a website. The key, of course, is one of my lucky symbols, being an Aries in the zodiac. And so I think something to that. And you also have another site here, lifewave.com, X39, the key, that's QI to wellness. We'll get into that in due time. But first of all, who is Nicholas Athenas? What did he experience that causes him to experience and do the stuff that he does? You got the floor from a primary source perspective. Knock yourself out, and then we'll get into some nitty-gritty, serious questions after that. So let's set the stage for this. Introduce yourself and what happened to you that causes you to be the person you are in the present day. You got the floor. I'll shut up and put myself on mute.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate you having me on the show today. It's been an interesting experience, journey. When I was younger, as a kid, in retrospect, I kind of found myself just kind of beating to my own drummer, just doing my own thing. I didn't let the world or anybody else's influences really get in. I just had this focus, whether it was in school or sports. Of course, I didn't realize that's what I was doing until I wasn't doing it. Towards the end of high school, I had injured my shoulder in gymnastics, looking to go towards the pre-Olympic trials. So I wasn't able to do that. And then halfway through my senior year of soccer, as captain of the team, I had also injured my shoulder. And so as it came toward the end of high school, I kind of lost direction, because I didn't know about applying for school or applying to colleges, or I wanted to play for St. John's soccer, but I didn't know I could just do walk-on tryouts. I found that out years later. I didn't know how the process worked. And I got myself into this mindset of, kind of depressed. I wasn't doing the sports, the things I love, things I enjoy, just kind of me being me. And I did try to make something positive out of it by doing my own rehabilitation of swimming, that I got into the Jones Beach Lifeguard Corps in 1998, and got into the world of, unfortunately, drinking, partying, etc. And that took me down a path of, looking back at it, it brought me down a path of me not being me, being someone that wasn't naturally me through high school. The one thing that changed everything was that I started thinking about and experiencing what the world thought of me. I started taking to that into more concern than what I thought of myself. And I realized that was the biggest change, that changed that direction, is I was being me naturally when I was younger, then became not me for about 6 years. And in 2006, I got a DUI. And that day, just spending that one day in jail, I quit cold turkey. All the drinking, all the drugs, all the people I was associating with. And I was like, I know I need to be more than what I've been. I'm like, this is not the direction I want to go in. Not realizing it at the time that what I got into of the drinking, partying was really denial. It was denial of my emotions, denial of certain things that had gone on in my life. And that's when the real work became, because I got back into having to ride my bike 20 miles a day because I had no license, back and forth to college and to work. And was back into lifeguarding and working out and training and so on. But I realized I had more work to do because there was things I was avoiding. I didn't realize how long that work was going to take. Then I decided to continue with my education. In 2008, I had finished my bachelor's in psychology, a minor in biology and genetics, and I wanted to go further. One thing my mom had said was, well, if you're going to be in the world of psychology, you might as well go to the top level of psychiatrist. So I decided to go through 1 year in mental health counseling at CW Post. And I realized after that, it wasn't the direction I wanted to go in. I wanted to find something that more focused on solutions and working in more, what I felt more positive growth. So then I went to Arizona for my mind and body wellness practitioner degree for 1 year. And I got certified for doing, master certification, hypnotherapy, life coaching, traditional Chinese medicine, and ancient whole food and nutrition courses. But I felt there was still more direction to go in. I wasn't finished. After that, I had gotten certified because I realized watching some of the Tony Robbins stuff and realizing NLP can certainly be beneficial because the power of words is very strong and the choices of the words that we use are very impactful. And then I felt I'm still searching. And what I was searching for goes back to my high school yearbook, which I didn't realize at the time was going to be so significant. I was looking for something that in my yearbook I wrote, if we all knew the one answer to everything, we all could get along. So not realizing, I was looking for that one answer. And I was like, well, that's to me, it sounds like an impossible answer, one answer to everything. Like, could there be something possible with that? So after finishing my Master NLP course, I decided, well, I need to go further. I'm still trying to understand the context between mind, body, and soul and trying to make that connection. So all of those classes applied to Quantum University. I had to do the 8 doctorate level courses and then work on my PhD dissertation. Once I finished the courses, I had to go to Honolulu, Hawaii for my practicum. It's a 5-day practicum since all the classes were an online program. They wanted to make sure that you understood the principles and concepts through the 5-day, pretty much the 5-day courses there, to make sure you understood the context of everything. When I was there, I met this guy by the name of Gary Sinclair. Now, by a flash of his own experience and call it an innate calling, he had came up with this technique by chance of where you can neutralize negative emotions within 1 minute. I was like, well, that's pretty profound. Now, he had a table at the event, at the practicum, outside of it, not any connection with the school, just had the opportunity to be there. And a lot of the other practitioners that were there were different types of biofeedback, neurofeedback machines, different types of things. And I said, well, this seems something different. So he says, well, do you have some type of negative emotion that you're looking to neutralize? I was like, well, yeah. There was actually 2 specific things. 2 of my family members had unfortunately, and in recent years up to then, had committed suicide. And I really just, I was having trouble trying to let go of what I couldn't control and what I couldn't do anything about. And he does the technique within 1 minute, and it felt like 1,000 pounds of weight just fell off my shoulders. I didn't really quite understand what happened, but I experienced the emotion of that it's almost like when I looked around, it seemed like everything around me, the lights had just brightened up, sounds brightened up, everything just lightened up. And I knew right then, I said, I need to know more about this. So I went back to New York. 2 weeks later, flew back to Southern California and did it was a full 5-day process, but it was a 3-day intensive certification program in what's called SoulLink, Restoration, and Awareness and Consciousness. Now, it was a very extensive, multiple binders of significant information. And with the $3,500 program, what I took from it was that it was a high level type of program. It was from my classes that I'd gone through. It was intense. It had a lot of information. But I decided to use just the pure, simple technique of SoulLink and incorporated that within my PhD dissertation. And what I did with that is I did that technique combined with aromatherapy and just aromatherapy alone. I used a BioWell camera that was able to assess with this device. Dr. Joe Dispenza used it in some of his things that he was working on, as well as Lifewave, used to see the energetic change within the body and energetic alignment and the effectiveness of it. And what I found was that by using the combined technique, it increased energetic output and alignment by 30% in one session. I was like, well, that's pretty powerful. Now, he had gotten the patent in 2018 for the SoulLink, and he had done the more of a subjective questionnaire with people saying, well, how do you feel after, and showing that it was an effective process based on the way the subject expressed how they felt. I wanted to find it more scientifically, regardless of how someone felt, what it was the body's response to it. Then, and in that time frame, my family and I, we moved to Texas from New York, and then COVID happened. So it kind of put a kind of a hold on things. Got my real estate license in Texas. Then we had a family situation where we had to move back to Delaware to take care of my wife's family stuff over the past year and a half, and also doing real estate in Delaware. And I got to this, it was this past November 4th. It's the first time that had ever happened in my life. Walked outside on my deck upstairs, and it was almost like this inner calling. I'd never experienced anything like this. And it was saying, well, you got to get this going. You got to get this out there. You got to do it your way, however way you want to do it. And I was like, it wasn't like I had consciously asked a question. It was just kind of more of, okay. And I started realizing, okay, what about? And realizing it was about specifically the SoulLink. So I decided at that point to create the not-for-profit foundation because it's a charity, and I wanted to figure out, okay, well, how do I put this into action? So I wanted to make it as a charity to benefit the community with the stress reduction technique. And I come up with the name of it, calling it the Universal Key. Now, the Universal Key meaning universal, love as being the universal language, and the key is that it's finding that key within inside of you. Now, what's amazing about this concept of this technique is that it gives you the ability to, within 1 minute, connect all these different parts I've studied for so long. And it connects these different parts together within yourself. And once you make that connection, it happens within a minute. It feels like just the intensity of that negative emotion, that negative memory, whatever it might be that you're focusing on, and it just kind of just neutralizes it. Almost like a 0 point. If anyone's heard of like a 0 point wand or device, it just neutralized it. And some things I realized, especially with my own family members that had in the past had committed suicide, there's some things I'm like, I don't have an answer for, but I just want it to be in a more manageable perspective. That's when I realized of studying and more in depth about the mind is that the mind is looking for an answer. It's looking for a solution. It's constantly processing for solutions. Well, the mind is amazing at processing. It's the fastest quantum computing device that exists out there. But when I realized there's certain things that may have no answers, that's where we utilize this patented technique, and it connects your heart's energy into it. And because it's unconditional love, from your heart beating from the moment of inception to the day you die, it's unconditional love. It is the strongest muscle we have within our body. And according to the Heart Math Institute and their clinical studies, it has a 5,000 times more positive energy field than the slight negative of the mind. The mind is designed to be a slight negative for protection. And it's connecting that heart and mind connection with whatever that emotion is. And by doing this technique, that it's able to neutralize it into more of a rational perspective. That the answer to something, which is, I know it sounds kind of out there, but the answer to something that has no answer, it simply just gives it space. By giving it space and becoming more neutral with it, sometimes that's where the answers can come from that. Because the more we resist something, the more it tends to persist. By having acceptance and accepting that, giving basically the mind an answer of accepting that there is no answer, but in time, there may come a solution to it or an answer to it. It gives that moment of space. And by having that moment of space where it happens right now, in the moment, that is where the miracles can happen. And that's been my experience with all this. And my goal is to do that in my 2-hour presentations and be able to show people what it's about, how it works, and get it out there.
Well, kudos to you of willing to do 2-hour presentations. I used to do 2-hour shows, but then I stopped doing that when I realized humans have lousy attention spans, and that's not really helping me in terms of getting a big audience as quickly as possible. So I've cut them down to an hour. But hey, if 2 hours works for you to get the information out, by all means do it. David Icke talked for 9 hours at a time, and people came in droves to watch him. Interesting how Spirit had that work out. But anyhow, let's talk about some of the things here. The Universal Key Core, unlock your potential. Well, oh boy, the potential is one of those things you never seem to get a hold of this, make sense of this, or some people, it drives them crazy to hear. Don't even get me started on how, well, I'm a good example of this. When I used to take school very, very seriously, and then basically one day late in sophomore year, I decided, okay, school is a joke. It's a brainwashing institution. There's nothing really useful to come out of this. I'm going to stop taking school seriously. And I expect that my teachers would cut me slack and treat me like they do a dumb kid. All the dumb kids always got cut slack. The school just gave up on them because they figured they had no potential. But I, on the other hand, got hassled the hell out of me simply because I wasn't performing up to what they thought was my potential, when I thought I had an awakening, realizing why should I care about this brainwashing institution and take it seriously. And well, they tried to brainwash me into thinking they were helping me by evaluating me and all that in those high school days of mine. I'm not going to get into this. It's a long story, but I think you understand what I mean here. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there who may know what it feels like to have people hassle them over how they're not performing up to their potential when well, in my case, I expected to get cut slack because I saw the dumb kids were getting cut slack, and I thought if I became one, then I'd get cut slack, and it didn't work out that way because people didn't see me that way. So how exactly does one unlock their potential, and what exactly is it about the human race that causes them to, like, help me make sense of this, by the way, if you can, like, give up on the dumb kids and the dumb folks and say who cares what happens to them, but the people that you think have potential, you try to hassle them to the point where they're like, I don't really like the hassle. So, well, you know what I'm trying to say. Why don't you give an expansion on that? How do you see that happen?
Absolutely, great question. And it seems to be the pattern, in my experience, that when we're looking at the outside world, that we're looking for affirmation, we're looking for that connection, we're looking for what others are expressing of your potential. And that can be the limiting factor, because the rest of the world is, if you're taking that into concern of what the rest of the world thinks, what if that happens to be your lowest level of potential, but within you is where your highest potential is? The most important aspect about this technique, this patented technique, is that it's going from within. As you go within yourself to look for the answers, because the answers, as we go from within, we start understanding more outside of ourselves. It goes in relation to back in 2003 and 2006, I watched these two documentaries called What the Bleep Do We Know and What the Bleep Do We Know Down the Rabbit Hole, and explain a lot of different aspects about quantum biology, the connection of things. And of course, I've watched The Secret. Another fantastic movie was called The Peaceful Warrior back in 2006. I think the biggest challenge is that when we're focusing on the past, we're not in the moment. When we're so focused on the future and creating that, we're not being in the moment. And what's amazing about this technique, and where it really resonated with me, is that by doing this technique in that moment, you're being in the now moment, actually connecting to right now. I was looking for something that may not be a 1 hour talk therapy, 2 years, so on and so forth, but really looking for solutions. And I realized that the solutions are within ourselves. By taking that leap of faith of going within ourselves and going in a different direction than outside of ourselves, that by going from within and trusting those answers from within, those are going to be those authentic, enlightening moments that come from within yourself. What I realized about my entire life was that I was trying to learn things, when in reality, that there's innate knowledge, there is instincts within us which is the source of where all knowledge is. That life isn't so much about learning, it's more about actually remembering who we are. And who we are, that is the first step. But when we're looking outside of ourselves for everyone else to tell us who we are, we might be limiting ourselves because they're focused on, they're only limited in their ability to what they see of you. Once you get to the point of where you see you're capable within yourself and build from that and get to that point with doing the technique just once and realizing the positive benefits of it, that's where I created that one-to-one 2-hour consultation, is that it goes along the concept of ignite your flame, rise up to victory, because what I'll do with them is show them through one at a time, going through all these different things that consciously come through the mind that are looking for solutions. We neutralize them and go one to the next. That process I experienced because I experienced about 4 months ago, was that I said, well, if this technique works for just one thing, well, what if you just keep going along with it and just keep going one after the next? That's where the aspect of the restoration, which was a 1-hour hypnotherapy session, that was part of the certification with the Soul Link, is that I found that, well, sure, you're in a subconscious mindset, you're in that deep, relaxed state. That state could certainly be in a suggestive mind, mental state, but that sweet spot is between theta and delta mind, that wavelength, where you're connecting to what's considered the world of imagination. If you can imagine it within your mind, we're going technically outside of the mind, outside of the conditioning and controls. And by doing so, you're kind of using that programming, which is unlimited of imagination, connecting that to your heart's centered energy. And whatever you choose to put there, the only thing that works there is unconditional love with the heart's energy. According to the Heart Math Institute, they've recently discovered that the heart's energy field, they studied that extended 5 feet, 10 feet, 50 feet. They recently discovered that their tools were only limited to a specific distance, and they found that there is really no limit of the heart's energy field when we connect to it. And the most important key aspects about this technique is that when you're connecting with your imagination to your heart's energy field and making a conscious decision of what you want to do with whatever emotion is that you're connecting with, and supplying it with from within the heart's energy field up through the mind as a straight line into the world of imagination, that becomes the way you can connect with what you choose to be the programming, what you choose it to be.
Yes, it's a matter of choice. If you choose properly, you will prosper. If you choose improperly, things will happen. And don't think you can fake it till you make it. The universe will find ways to make sure that you cannot maintain a charade if your intentions are not of the highest good in performing that charade. So I guess at this point, well, I'm not going to make it pay-per-view yet, but we'll get into some of the stuff that you talk about regarding Lifewave X39, the key, that's QI to wellness. It says X39 supports healthy stem cell activity, which promotes healing, restoration, and rejuvenation in a completely non-invasive and safe way by naturally elevating copper peptide produced by the body. X39 boosts vitality and overall health and wellness. Turn back time with X39. Okay, that's what it says on your site. So why don't you expand on that and get into the science behind how this works and why something like this would be a wise investment for humanity?
Absolutely. It's interesting it was about 2 months ago, as I was looking for other things that can connect with the concept of quantum biology, energetic, call it energetic medicine, the things with this technique that works with the universal key and neutralizing emotion, since energy works from the top down, according to Dr. Amit Goswami, one of my teachers at Quantum University, is that energy flows from top down. It flows from, we'll call it the divine, the creator, to the supramental, to the mental, to the vital energy levels. You can call those chakras, meridians, so on, down to the physical. And with that in mind, I said, well, okay, if these different types of this specific technique is able to work from that top-down approach of neutralizing negative emotions that are attached to it, and by neutralizing all of those, what we're left is within ourselves, since we are a human being or a hue of light, we are light beings within a physical body. And that light within us is our gift. It is the strongest source of our energy that actually goes through the center of that is through the heart. We've been explained that maybe it goes through the mind and everything else, but it actually goes through the heart. And as a toroidal field, that's what creates that, almost like a battery within our own body, that electromagnetic field. And I said, well, okay, well, if we're able to work on neutralize those different types of emotions that go from the mind and can sometimes manifest on the physical level, and those things are able to be neutralized, and what's left is the physical matter or the physical body. And about 2 months ago, through my identical twin brother, he's got his master's in clinical nutrition and works on designing supplements for a supplement manufacturer. He spoke to a friend of his, this guy Bob Broomy, and he called me saying, hey, your twin brother said this might be of interest to you. He said, you went to Quantum University, you're finishing your doctorate and PhD in quantum biology and natural medicine. And he's like, I happen to be on what's called the quantum field team, which is a network marketing. And he said, this might resonate with you. I said, well, yeah, I was kind of looking for something like this, just didn't know what it would be. So he talks to me about it, shows me the website, and I decided to look further into it and realize that David Schmidt had been working on for about 20 years or so to get the patent on this. He got the patent in 2020. And when I actually read through the patents, it actually, they call it phototherapy. What the patch does is it has a specific imprinted of nanomicrocrystals. Those resonate a specific frequency, and that frequency that you have on for 12 hours a day, as your heart beats and the blood passes through that, passing that patch, it sends a specific frequency. Now, it is not a transdermal patch. It doesn't go through the skin. It sends a frequency. Well, the understanding of that, there's different frequencies out there that may certainly negatively affect our body at a cellular level. Well, what about something that is sending a positive frequency at a low level frequency through what's called the electron pathway? It sends that frequency from the patch through the skin into the blood, and now the blood's getting that specific frequency. Now, what that ability to do is, with the right frequency to your DNA, that frequency now, in a sense, says to your DNA of your body, well, this is the correct frequency, the most positive frequency. And by doing that, it reminds the body to create more pure stem cells, and those pure stem cells then create regeneration of the body is that as the body rebuilds also from top down and inside out, it'll start working within rebuilding your most critical organ systems and eventually outward over 90 days. Now, what's amazing about this is they've done significant amount of trials, and one of the ones that I had checked out that seemed fascinating was that they had done a 12-week clinical study from people the ages of 50 to 60, a mix of male and female. And they did a cardiovascular test before and cardiovascular age before it, and 12 weeks later, and found that their cardiovascular age reduced. It became 8 years younger, and their cardiovascular health after 90 days. And I was like, that is pretty powerful. Then I started looking into it even further. There was one specific clinical study that was done by a dermatologist and plastic surgeon, and found that by using the X39 for the 2 weeks of when people are recovering from any type of plastic surgery, whether it's facial, the body, whatever it is, work that he did on, and he found that their repair time was approximately 3 times faster than those that didn't use the patch at all. I thought those different aspects of it were pretty profound. And they have 11 different types of patches depending on specific need, one being like Lifewave for pain. They have one for sleep. They have one that's more focused on skin regeneration for those that are into the skincare industry, estheticians, those that are chiropractors and people that are looking to regenerate and repair after injury. There's a significant amount of uses for it, but I found that because it worked on a cellular level of an effective frequency that the body can rebuild with it, from the inside out, I thought that this was a great union to, like you said, it was another key, but they call it Q, key as in energy key flow. And I realized, well, there's probably more keys in the future that can be added, but working on something as a mind and body wellness practitioner and finding things that I found effective within myself, that I want to be able to share these opportunities with other people and helping reduce negative energy attached to their emotions of their past, as well as helping their body regenerate and repair from within. And that's really the whole context of everything, is focusing on what you do from within eventually expresses outward. If we do the things on the outside of us and expecting to work to work its way on the inside, there may be limitations.
Okay, last part of this interview here. 15 minutes or so will be pay-per-view only. People, please subscribe to Patreon if you want to listen to the last 15 minutes or so of this interview. And from this point onwards,